Small talk matters so much in Canada. It's a core part of daily life here. We encounter it at work, at school, on transit, with neighbors. When Dozier and I were having a conversation earlier, setting up this project, we naturally lapsed into a conversation, small talk, talking about holiday plans and the weather, and we didn't even realize it until it was just so natural. The fact is that people often judge friendliness and fit based on how comfortable you seem with casual conversation. And newcomers who avoid small talk, they could be seen as distant, they could be seen as shy, or not interested. And it may be from nervousness, and understandable, but you will often be judged if you avoid it. And it's often the first step that people use to build relationships in Canada. It's the first step before people invite you to lunch, to after work events, or other social activities, which are opportunities to build your network and to develop your life here in Canada. And it's, of course, it's a practical way to reduce your loneliness and build connections in your new community and building your life here in Canada. Talking about small talk as social currency in workplaces, we have to understand that in Canada, there is a separation, for the most part, between personal life and professional life. We don't often get into a lot of very deep conversations. It can happen, but it's quite rare. So how do you build those relationships? It's through small talk. In workplaces, managers use small talk to build trust and teamwork. So it's definitely not wasting time. It's crucial for your career. And knowing what to say and what not to say in small talk can influence your being hired, promotion, opportunities to be mentored. So it really is much more important than you might think. And the other thing is that these casual conversations that you get in small talk, it can help you to collect. It can help you boost your understanding about how things work in Canada. You'll get a sense of the office norms, a sense of the unwritten rules, upcoming opportunities as you get into these, because they'll slip in. You'll notice it either through the topics that people discuss, or you might get in the loop for opportunities because you've started to build friendly relationships. And it can start with some very simple talk, just even starting with questions like, how was your weekend? And let's see, the other thing is that it can feel harder than learning English or learning a language. The reason is, generally speaking, when you're learning a language, you've got some set rules. And there's so much information out there on how to learn languages, on grammar rules, vocabulary, different things. And of course, ChatGPT with AI, there's so many options out there. But when it comes to things like small talk, there's these kinds of rules are rarely explained because, for the most part, it's not something that people in a culture would necessarily think that it needs to be explained. It's unlike language, which is very noticeable when you're having there are rules that we've discussed. For the most part, a lot of people assume, especially in Canada and in many parts of North America, assume that small talk is just a human thing that everyone does. And that if you're a person who doesn't do it, that there's maybe some kind of personality question, that you're shy or not capable. And the rules of small talk are rarely explained, but people just assume that you're going to do it because you're a human. And if you're not, then that can also be interpreted as perhaps not being leadership material because, well, okay, this person isn't comfortable in social situations, so they must not be good. And a lot of the things that come up, opportunities are often judged by how people feel about you and whether you are a good fit. And small talk is an excellent way to establish a good fit. And often being seen as a good fit socially is equally or even more important than the skill sets or experience you have listed on your resume. There was a report from LinkedIn from 2019 that mentioned that soft skills are considered equally, if not more important than hard skills by many recruiters in North America. And small talk is a big part of that set of soft skills. Yeah, again, the rules are rarely explained. A lot of the things like the social norms about personal space, eye contact, what topics are appropriate, they may differ from what's considered acceptable in some other cultures that are, whether they're high context cultures, such as many cultures that you might find in Asia, or even more direct cultures where they might getting into more personal details might be quite acceptable. And in Canada, sometimes there is indirect communication, and that can be confusing for people used to more direct speech. And this can also show up in small talk as well. And also the fear of making mistakes or being judged for your accent can make you feel that it's better to stay silent. But obviously, doing that, if you succumb to those kinds of fears or misjudge how important that small talk can be, it can really disadvantage you. And again, cut off opportunities that you might have in the long term. So what this guide will and won't teach you will give you safe topics, some example phrases, maybe some mini dialogues, and also some recovery tools to handle when you get into awkward moments, because it's quite natural that will happen. Sometimes, even those of us who are comfortable with small talk as part of a natural everyday thing, every once in a while something might happen. So there are ways to recover from that. We'll get into some regional differences, for example, Quebec versus the prairies, and also the unwritten rules, things like your volume, how loudly you speak, and personal space. And of course, what it won't teach you necessarily is the focus on the language itself in terms of the mechanics of what you might learn in an English class, for example, because there are plenty of resources for that. Obviously, you'll get those examples of topics and phrases and some mini dialogues, but the assumption is that anyone who is reading this has a fairly strong, at least intermediate level grasp of English. You might pick up some interesting language based on vocabulary and phrases coming up in here, but that's not the primary intent of this, because then as mentioned, there are already plenty of other resources for that. And it's not going to promise you that you will sound Canadian in a few weeks, that you're going to somehow change your accent so that you can sound more like someone who was born and raised here, because that's not the intention here. You're not going to be a master of as useful as these articles can be. The only way you can master a skill when it comes to becoming more comfortable with small talk is to actually do it. And that means being comfortable with the idea of maybe making mistakes. And depending the way that you do it, there are ways that's how we all learn. Start doing it. Don't wait until you feel like you're perfect from reading these articles or any resource. The only way to learn is by doing. And of course, so that's basically what this guide will and won't teach you.